Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another live stream. Sorry I missed you yesterday. If you were waiting for me yesterday, I do apologize. It is going to be hit and miss. It's going to be spotty, as I've mentioned. Sometimes I just lose control of my hands, and what they do is they get very swollen, and then you can't really grab anything. You can't organize your fingers to coordinate efforts, really, to manhandle the computer, if you will. But I'm here, I'm back today, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different today because I've got a mystery guest going on. I'm not going to tell anybody who it is. You might already have guessed who it is. It might be a little bit obvious to you, but we're going to be doing this and trying to do this each and every week on a Friday, and I will make my best efforts to get many different people on, not just going for some of the well-known people that you probably want to hear from, but maybe some of them low-key characters on chain and then also off chain as well that you might want to hear from. So again, like if there's people that you want on a Friday on this live for a mystery slot, then reach out to them, say this slot is available, it's there, maybe you should get on the HCC channel. I definitely want to hear from different people. I think that's something that this channel lacked considerably, and we did our very best at the beginning to ensure there was a good diversity of different characters, different personalities, different perspectives coming on the channel. But we've got a lot to go over, and really we're going to be crunching down everything that we would normally go through into about 45 minutes. So some stuff might be shortened down. We might briefly cover some things. We might go over a few other things in depth, but the idea is 2 o'clock, that mystery guest is going to be coming on. So I do want to be ready for that. And it's definitely going to be something where you're going to want to ask questions to this person. You're going to want to know the different ins, the different outs of all of the different things that are going on. And I'm going to do my very best to ensure that I ask all of the questions that I think you guys would also want answers to, and really getting you up to date on mostly everything that's just going on in the LUNC community. And I'll likely just have an everyday conversation with this person as I normally do when we have any kind of direct communication. So let's get this thing rolling, guys. Before we go any further, do remember, drop a like. That is really going to help people find this live stream. It's going to show it to other people, and yeah, in turn LUNC might benefit. It might get new holders. As I don't know, kind of blasé as that sounds, and as much as you hear it in many different places, I think here in LUNC it makes the biggest difference, because if you do want to reach new people, well, then we need to effectively work together to coordinate a push to help other people find LUNC content. So again, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, do all of those different things, guys. It is really going to go a long way. And the algorithm, as I mentioned recently, absolutely just believes this channel is dead at this stage. So trying to revive it might not even be possible. There might be and I was speaking to a professional who does car content, mechanical content, boat content, and he actually went through this where he had to just give up on his channel and create a new one, because the algorithm just simply wouldn't ever come back to his channel no matter what he did, how many views he got on a video. He just simply never ever grew from that point onwards. So yeah, that could be a reality. But let's go, let's get this thing moving. I'm 15-20 minutes late coming into this. It's been a crazy morning here, all hands on deck. Gonna do crypto bubbles, we'll do the fear and greed index, and then I briefly just want to show you guys the new LUNC Dash. I think this is version 3. So there's a new version of LUNC Dash out anyway, and I'm going to be making, again, these coordinated efforts to really get the app on side and get a new look out there for the app, really bringing it into the 21st century, if you will. But crypto bubbles, as you would expect, guys, today, a mixed feeling out there. There's a lot of positivity. CZ has just been pardoned. I mean, I don't know if you guys kept up with all of the courts and the ongoing stuff, not just with TFL, but like what happened with SBF, what's going to happen with DK, and what CZ Binance himself went through being in jail. And it's kind of questionable seeing someone like that get a pardon, because effectively the courts did find him guilty with enough evidence. He served his time. So given a pardon, it is, yeah, again, it's really beneficial and stuff like that. But again, like it's highly questionable. But this then puts us into the reality, doesn't it? Is SBF going to get a pardon? Is someone like DK going to get a pardon? In the world of SBF, the court, everything that they did, what was going on in that apartment, the drugs that were being taken, I think SBF deserves to be where he is. But DK is essentially, he is questionable. Yes, he is guilty, but it's kind of strange, isn't it? Because unless they can prove he actually, directed the attack himself internally, then it's highly questionable whether you be convicted, right, for creating a product like Ross Ulbricht did. Can you create this product, people use it for a different completely use case, and then you go to jail, you get punished? Is there a reality where someone like SBF or DK can now get a pardon? Yeah, probably, highly likely. And presidents, towards the end of their presidency, specifically if they've served 3 terms, from what I understand, they get very, very generous with those pardons, because you want to really do anything that's highly questionable towards the end, wouldn't you? Right? These are the things I'm thinking about today. It's completely consumed my mind, the fact that, yeah, maybe just maybe there could be pardons on the table. Imagine that, because for you guys that would mean DK getting a pardon, because say DK doesn't go to jail for life, he's convicted, blah blah, etc., etc. The current civil case deemed, determined, judged and agreed in the court of Delaware that TFL, its members, DK, can never even interact with crypto, period. So again, this is really interesting. Are we going to see CZ Binance now come back as the CEO of Binance? This is absolutely crazy to wake up and actually see this today. So Crypto Bubbles, mixed feelings. It's, if you've been making those short-term plays like I've been doing, they're doing pretty good. You're seeing V-shaped recoveries out there across board. Lunar Classic being one of the strongest V-shaped recoveries forming, at this moment in time. Fearing Ingredex pushing up to around 30. Oh, excuse me, you guys. Gotta have a drink. I am sipping on a coffee, but it's giving me indigestion. So sitting at 30, fear, this is much better than where we were yesterday, especially last week in that extreme fear stage. This is really the stage where you want to have thought about making some moves. But now, again, with all of the positivity out there, you should probably think about making some moves, maybe doing some small dollar cost averaging in, do some risk aversion if you need to in other places. I actually did that a couple of days ago. I'm going to do a video on how risk aversion is a necessity in times like this, to really look at what you're holding. Maybe you're going full circle, which is what I was doing with a couple of my assets. And I did think to myself, maybe I should just bail on these assets at this point. So there is one asset that I just said, this thing's cooked, it's done. It's probably not going to go up in any substantial way that other coins are likely to go up, like Bonk, like a Dog with Hat, things like that. Things that are kind of guaranteed in a sense. Nothing's guaranteed in crypto, but those are strong movers each and every time this market starts to go into that green area of the fear and greed index. So it's good to see this. It's good to see all of that news pushing out at the moment, because we are at Friday, and having good momentum on a Friday is going to push through the weekend. So the United States being in a government shutdown, the transacting of money, all of those different things, right? Crypto is just simply becoming an option for a lot of people now, whether it's in Russia, where it's now being adopted. We went over some stuff in the last live stream about that. I'll cover it again just in case you've missed it. But there's so much positivity out there, and I think the news itself moves so fast that no one thing ever lingers, and it's never really developed on the concept of something and people really breaking it down for their communities. Instead, it's just kind of, this is what happened, this is when it happened, this is why it's bullish, and it doesn't really go any further than that. The necessity for longer content is needed in crypto, but again, this all comes down to that vertical viewing and the doom scrolling. So let's go over to LUNC Dash quickly. And guys, like I said, I think this is either V3 or V4. I need to go back and look at each version that we've done so far, because by far this is the the most beautiful version that we have put out there. And again, this is not bringing you guys anything new tool-wise, but it's just completely giving the thing a makeover, making it look pretty. We are going to be adding in some more tickers down here to fill this fill this spot up down here. I don't know why that sentence was so hard to say. But LUNC Dash, I think, is underrated. A lot of people don't understand how much is in here, how much is available, what you can do, what you can track. I see so many questions being asked, and it's like, well, you could just go to LUNC Dash and actually get those answers. Or people that don't even know LUNC Dash isn't just a metric system, it's a mobile app that's there, it's on your wallet, it's legitimate, it's run by us in the United Kingdom from our own company that's registered. You know, this thing is completely legit. And yeah, it just doesn't have hardly anyone really using the mobile app. You know, we've got 1,000 to 2,000 people, but in comparison to what's out there, you know, I need to work more on just getting LUNC Dash as a product out there for people, especially now that, yeah, Terra Station isn't owned by anyone that we really know or we've got any kind of relationship with as a blockchain. We need to be very careful going forward with things like that, and who owns them, who took them over, you know, the ins and the outs. But everything is much better here, you know, everything looking much more beautiful, more fluid, and just an overall better vibe, I would say. So we're going to be doing a lot of changes. I've got new stuff coming, which is essentially an auto compounding system that's specifically built for LUNC Dash and for my validator, and that's it, period. It costs us so much money to develop things as an entirety, and I just thought to myself, this is the best thing to do. And everyone should really begin to think to themselves, well, you know, we've been in it 4 years, the kind of courteous kind of, well, I'll pay for you, don't worry about it, it's absolutely fine, I'll lose the money. We just can't have that attitude anymore. But the auto compounding for my delegates, you know, this is going to be real fluid, it will work all of the time. We're also working on the wallet recovery system, which you'll be able to come here and use. You won't need to have anyone else really be in your way. You won't need to direct message loads of different people. You can just come here if your wallet's been hacked, and you can use and utilize that smart contract system that's going to be here for anyone whose wallet gets penetrated, whether it's by mistake or by accident, or maybe someone gets into the notes on your phone or whatever. It's going to be there. It's going to be available. We're going to be pushing LUNC swap .fund back into the ecosystem, which is LUNC Dash, removing the .swap and just putting it as .io. So reintroducing a DEX, reintroducing a lot more different things. I want to make LUNC Dash the place that you all want to come and use and utilize. And in order to do that, we need to have everything that you guys really need. So there's going to be a huge expansion over the remaining months of this year. And what I just mentioned there will be done and dusted before 2025 is finished. So these things aren't going to be coming in like 6 months time or whatever. This is going to be very, very soon. We pushed this out very quick, and I feel like the team is working at breakneck speed at this point. So yeah, guys, LUNC Dash is there. It's available. Don't forget, let me give this a refresh. Don't forget, you can try the new mobile app if you're not using it. It's available on Android, iOS. We keep it as up to date as possible. Everything is functioning on it. There isn't any issues that you should really encounter. Ledger works fine with it. And the Telegram group is back open if you need support, if you need to speak to someone, if you need some help. Again, guys, be very, very careful. Never give anyone your seed phrases. Always safeguard your assets. That's the number one most important thing in crypto. As you can see here, showing up wallet recovery. Do you see that, guys? So yeah, it's moving thick and fast. That was literally just there in front of your eyes, a new system being developed, honed, and pushed into the current build. So keep an eye out for these things. Keep an eye out for all of the different things that we're going to be pushing. Like I said, auto compounding showing up there as well. So yeah, fun times. Going to be completely focusing my efforts on Lunar Classic with Pengs and LUNC Dash, and then the YouTube channel, and just keeping you guys as up to date as possible. Now, enough about my little product there. Let's really get this thing rolling, because yeah, this mystery guest is going to be coming on in 30 minutes, and there'll probably be like 5 minutes silence between me bringing them on, because I've got to recalibrate all of the sound stuff behind the scenes. So anything that you guys want me to go over, anything that you want to really look at during this mystery guest session with LUNC Dash, get it in the comments section now, because I'll be going back. I'll be looking at the questions, and then I'll also be doing that during as well. So just going through. Hello TGIF, hi all, don't forget to like. Yeah, always like, you guys, it really helps. 28 of you, only 11 likes. There's definitely more of you out there. Good morning, you guys. Yes, if wherever you are on planet Earth, if it's the morning, good morning to you. It is the afternoon here. It's very cold, very brittle here in the south of Wales. I have mobile and it don't look like that yet. No, it doesn't, Michael Schmidt. They are two separate builds that have to be done independently, and everything just really boils down to money, what's available, what we can do. So we'll be working on that as soon as possible. But the app is there. It's completely fluid for you guys. So Terra's back. Good afternoon, family. We have CPI data release very soon, right? Yeah, cheers. Yes, we have Prever. We have indefinitely got that CPI data. And this is really important, you guys, considering the whole of the United States is in a government shutdown. So there's people in prediction markets, they're all betting on this at the moment, and the idea and concept of someone like SBF getting a pardon as well. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting 7 days ahead. There's a lot more than just what you guys see at face value. I think this is one of the most important things going on outside of crypto that's going to have a huge effect on crypto, period. And this is Trump eyeing a comprehensive US-China trade deal on soybeans and nuclear issues. Now, the nuclear issues, okay, I'm not going to be diving into that, but those soybeans, right? This is huge. This is huge. When I looked at the numbers, it was like 85% of the soybeans produced in the United States are traded with China. So this is, this is huge. These are the kind of things that, yeah, are going to have a huge effect on the overall market. And seeing the summit, which is going to be the Apex summit, that is going to be something everybody can opt into, everybody can view, and everybody can see as an end result what has come from this. It seems Trump is now more interested in throwing his toys out of the pram with Canada than he is than what has really been, upsetting him with China and President Xi. Now, his his reaction with what it wasn't Canada, but I'll get it up in a minute. It's somewhere in Ontario. They pushed an advert. It was very specific, and it used the voice of Ronald Reagan, and was saying that tariffs are bad. This is bad. That's bad. And Trump's obviously not happy about it. So he's like, all trade deals are off with Canada at this point. So we probably gonna see like a little knee-jerk reaction out there, but things can be fixed quite quickly between the US and Canada. They have a good lane of direct communication, whereas those direct lanes of communication with someone like China is a lot more complex. There might be horses' mouths between the stable, if you will. So Trump is predicting, and this came out 2 days ago on thehill.com. Really good news place for like presidential news, things that are going on in the political sector as well, if you're into those kind of things like me. And Trump predicting a deal on, and wait for it, guys, everything in the meeting with Xi. And when Trump says everything, I sometimes take it with a pinch of salt. But if he is saying this with China, if he's going to secure a deal with everything, with the soybeans, the nuclear issues, all of this, and it's the rare earth minerals, the situation that really surrounds that at the moment. I'm under the understanding that America's working towards some kind of raw earth minerals processing in Ukraine when things calm down. And I think that worries China in the same way that the Tomahawk missiles worry President Putin and has pushed him into these peace talks, where he's actually going to the United States, or had gone to the United States, sorry, for the first time since all of this kicked off. This guy's wanted, I think, I can't remember what the act's called, but he's wanted in the world, criminal court. That's where they want to get him. But again, this is all stuff that's going to have a huge effect on us, you guys. As much as you don't want to hear it, as much as you don't want to listen to it, again, it's going to have a huge effect. I dropped this in last time we did a live, but I think, again, regulation is just as important as price movement, as actions inside of crypto, and all of the bullish events that have unfolded and will unfold. Regulation is going to be a big part of crypto adoption. without regulating something, how can you allow the public to adopt it, right? So the more of these laws that are getting signing, not just in California, but like statewide in the UK, trying to get some standardization, if you will. If you don't know what standardization is, it's like producing vans, cars, and motorbikes, and instead of having 10 different models, you just have one model of each vehicle. So you're only building one model of each vehicle. That's called standardization. So what you really want to see is the standardization of crypto laws as a whole globally, because it's the same thing. No matter where you are in the world, crypto acts the same. It does the same stuff. It moves in the same manner. So therefore, why shouldn't the laws be the same when it comes down to crypto on a global scale? I understand with our own currencies in our own countries, but crypto's universal, right? So how can it adhere to different laws in different places for different people, depending on your geolocation? So yeah, I think we'll reach a point where we will start to get like global crypto laws, and we'll just, again, as much as like the everyday Joe doesn't ever seem that interested in regulation, where it's going to go and what it's going to do. Yet we covered the Genius Act months and months and months before it even became mainstream, before people even began to speak about it, and all of the negative things that came forward from that. People were moaning about it afterwards. I'm like, how can you moan afterwards after it's been around for like 4 months? They've been talking about it for a significant amount of time. Going on to something with Russia. Last live stream, want to get this out there again for you guys. This has a really big effect on crypto in general. Russia has a lot of tariffs, a lot of embargoes, trading circumstances placed on them, and they can really, circumvent all of that by utilizing crypto. So the Russian Ministry of Finance and the central bank have agreed to legalize payments in crypto for foreign trade. I have to stress that is foreign trade, you guys. Sorry, I was sipping my drink again. Now, the market focus is definitely going to be on the US CPI data. We mentioned this. This is going to be really, really pivotal for the market itself and how everybody goes forward, really making their game plans. What's expected? How will BTC and cryptocurrencies be effective? And these are all of the possible scenarios. So I'm not going to go through this because, again, it's quite obvious that it's either just going to be bullish or bearish. There's never going to really be a neutral point with this. And even if there is a neutral point that gets put forward, it's either going to be up or down. This is going to be the moment when the market decides whether we're going to continue coming down, continue crashing down, and getting punished even more. I think it's 50-50 at this stage, depending on what's inside this data, what it says. It could be priced in, and that happens all too often. The scenario here where they're saying Bitcoin and Ethereum will fall if CPI comes above 3.1, and if the CPI comes above 3.1, it will mark the highest inflation since June 2024, and this typically slows economic growth, making it riskier assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum less attractive. The scenario could signal a decline for riskier assets. So again, this is all down to how it's perceived at the moment in time, what happens around it. Is there bigger news that drops? Sometimes other news can foreshadow news like this. So with the pardon being pushed out for someone like CZ, again, is Donald Trump coming out with some kind of crypto game plan where he's going to pardon a few different people and keep the limelight on crypto? This could be a game plan, right? The amount of inside trading that's going on within that circle of people is insane. Donald Trump has made more money, and his family have made more money from crypto than they have in anything, I think, over the past 2 years. So that should speak mountains to you guys. So let's get this. So much crap. Here we go. So Trump pardons Binance founder CZ. Binance also pleaded guilty and was ordered, and this is what I was saying about, they were ordered to pay $4.3 billion after a US investigation found it helped users bypass sanctions. So it wasn't like, they didn't do something wrong, or they done this whole kind of Robin Hood thesis, which I never agree with, because it's wrong regardless. You were prosecuted for this. You went to jail. You lost, I think, nearly a year of your life. It's what happens now. Okay, he's been pardoned. Did they get the money back? Probably not. But this, for us, this puts us in a situation where SBF or DK or other people could see themselves pardoned, because this guy performed criminal actions as the CEO of Binance. It was his responsibility and it fell on him. Yet, criminal convictions, but you can get a pardon. So what is going on at the moment likely is going to be some kind of play into some bigger move, right? We might get some negative news, and this might be foreshadowed by other, right, pardons that come through. Imagine if they did pardon Do Kwon. That would be crazy. I honestly don't know what I would do. I would be very, very confused about what happens now, because if they did pardon him, that would mean that that final judgment is no longer valid when it comes down to him not being able to be involved in crypto. Where do you guys think he would go? Like, let me do a poll. I think this is the best way to do it. Start a poll. Oh, this is going to ruffle some feathers. So, if DK is pardoned, where will he go? What do you reckon, guys? Where will he go? Will he go to LUNC? Will he go to Luna? This is a good question. Like, a really good question, because I'm going to say there's a high probable chance. I wouldn't say definitively, and I don't really need to go by the poll. I want to elaborate on this a little bit more. I think there's a part of him that would come back to Luna Classic. And don't get me wrong, they did the fork, they did all of those different things, but I think there's a part of him, especially getting towards the end of that civil case, where he kind of had this heartache for our chain. And you can hear it from Chris Armani. And the reason why the USTC was burned is not just because, right, of the final judgment. Now, all of the USTC outside of LFG, yes, okay, if it was in trial exhibit P301, if it belonged to TFL, it should get burned. But no one, and I don't know if we could have done it either, could have burned what was in LFG. Do Kwon's responsible for that. Although the SEC went and burned it themselves, Do Kwon was responsible for that. It's in the final judgment. And Chris said he worked very hard from his cell to ensure that USTC was wiped out, because he knew it was a significant amount. So there's a part of me that would think, maybe he would just come back to Luna Classic because of just how time is. But again, it's 50-50, isn't it? Would he want to go to his new 2.0 baby? Interesting stuff. We're in a reality, you guys. We're in a reality now where it could happen. So the stock market took a little bit of a tumble yesterday, I believe. I was kind of watching it just from my tablet. It's about one of the things that I can use with my sausage fingers when they swell up. AI infrastructure plays tumble as major indexes rally. The AI stocks, and I think it was Bitfarm stocks. I think Bitfarm stocks as well. They took a tumble. I was watching it and I thought, oh, that's not good. AI is, again, like its own, I would say, a little bubble at the moment. That's just going to become its own independent bubble that will eventually burst. And I don't know where it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, but there is going to be rules and regulations just put on AI in general, I think, as to what it can do, the availability of it, what you can use it for. Because obviously it's going to wipe everybody out. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's going to be like a mass exodus of people that just have to be like, I think you would call it universal credit. I think that's what they call it in the United Kingdom if you don't have a job. That is essentially what you'd have to put the world on if AI keeps advancing at a breakneck speed. And that is a reality. And people, are already losing their jobs. This is already a thing that's underway. Here we go. Bitfarm stocks tumble. Is a recovery possible? So again, this is all stuff that you guys want to pay attention to, because something that I've been looking at externally when it comes to XRP at the moment is these external factors, right? These external factors like Evernorth that are set to raise over $1 billion in US listing to hoard XRP token. What does this say? Well, they're going to buy $1 billion worth of XRP coins. So this is just good for business in general. If you don't have an outside picture, if you don't have an external image of a situation, then really what do you have? Nothing. You're just as blind as a chicken trying to look over a tiny fence. You've got the smallest peripheral ever. You've got to be aware of everything at this point, of absolutely everything. So Evernorth, a new crypto venture backed by digital asset firm. Now, I'm doing a video on Evernorth. They're saying it's a new crypto venture. Yes, a new crypto venture, but by someone who's well integrated into the current standard financial ecosystem. Again, going to be doing a video on this, so do keep it out. The venture backed by asset firm Ripple said on Monday it will list on the NASDAQ for a merger with a blank check. All right, guys, a blank check. Firm Armada Acquisition Corp. The second. I wonder what happened to the first. They must have all gotten a boat and it's sunk. Expected to raise more than $1 billion in proceeds. Digital asset treasury will focus on accumulating XRP. Let's go. Send it. What did I say to you guys? XRP is for transacting in the future. It's not for holding, right? If you hold it right now, okay, and you just buy some and you just hold it, right? These kind of people are going to use it, right? You hold, they use. And the likelihood is, right, some of them will build up treasuries. Don't get me wrong. Some of them will build up treasuries and some of them will hoard, like they're saying they're going to here. But they're going to use it to transact at face value. And I think this is something everybody doesn't understand with XRP. It's kind of like the whole algorithm situation at the moment. People just don't understand that, like, you hold it and they're just going to transact with it. It doesn't matter if it's at $10 a coin or, $1 million a coin. It doesn't matter to them because they're going to buy and sell it at the exact value at that exact moment. It's going to be an instantaneous cross-border transaction. Oh, and then what? On top of that, we've got Governor Waller pushing those skinny master account wallets. Oh my God, I'm so bullish. Oh my God. I hope you guys are holding XRP. Let me know in the comment section. The poll is at 70% LUNC. That's interesting. What do you guys think on what I said? Are you up to date kind of like with what happened towards the end? Maybe you didn't watch all of the content here on the channel. I mean, it wasn't the most watched thing in the world. So news didn't really get far, but yeah, it found like he had a love lust. Like a love lust. And yes, there is a lot going on. It does make me feel as if we had some good momentum. Markets are moving. Someone's already guessed. Good question with the poll. Hard to tell. Would be cool if LUNC had a face. Yeah, again, the issue is Charlie 83. Specifically 83. I don't know where the other 82 are behind him. Again, they must have all got on a boat, eh? Having a face is not impossible. Every face of this chain has just been either they self-terminate or self-detonate, or the community does it for them, and then all of the validators just... I don't think... And that's kind of the cost of decentralization, right? Everybody's got a point, and your point is valid, especially on... So yeah, I just don't think, unless it was someone like CZ Binance, for example, or DK, I think in that case, people would just zip a lip and be like, yeah, okay, let's let them cook. Let's let them cook. Guys, don't forget to drop a like. 33 of you in here. 16 likes. Come on. More people. We need more people to like so more people can find the content, you guys. It's good news. So you're probably wondering about at the top as well, like AstroPort, stuff like that. We're going to be going over all of that very, very shortly. We've got 12 minutes. In a way, it would help to get a roadmap. Yeah, I was saying this in my previous lives that we need a damn roadmap. We need a plan, something solid that we're going to stick to, and not deviate from. And like, if you do bring in a leader, for example, or a group of people that are going to lead, it's kind of like electing a president or whatever in your own country. They serve X amount of terms for a reason, and they serve X amount of time for a reason, regardless of the negatives outweighing, the pros and stuff like that. The pros outweighing the negatives. It's a situation where the pros and the cons mix together, and you kind of have to take it as it comes. But again, you can't just like remove these people because they made one bad decision, or they did something you didn't like, or the majority of the community didn't like, for example. All too often that happens. And I think there's so much data, example, for things like burning, but there's no data for attempting to market or attempting to really have some kind of leading factor, if you will, even if it was like a council of board members, and each one of those board members are from a different part of the community, making every voice heard, and having, if it's a board member of 100 people that have got the voices of, you know, hundreds of thousands of other people, and everybody's happy to do that. That's kind of a way I believe you could introduce some kind of leadership group. But like, again, this means like you've got to have absolutely everyone. And then people would just simply go, well, we kind of already have this with validators being in an active set. So yeah, it all becomes very argumentative. Yeah. God, I love stuff like this because it really does start to tickle my brain of like what's possible, especially because I've been gone so long, and I see everybody bickering today. For the brief moment I clicked on X to just put my morning tweet out. So people know I'm here and not unalive. 1 second, you guys. God, 1 sec. I just got to take this call. It's for one of my kids. Okay, I'm back. Wow. Love being a parent. What should I go to the Halloween party as, Dad? Should I go as Scream or should I go as a vampire? And I was like, well, I kind of think Scream looks cooler, but you could really do a cool vampire and stuff like that. Oh God, to be a parent, it's those moments that I really do live for. What should I go to the party for dressed as Halloween? I'll go as Scream. Let's get you the mask that does all of the effect down it. Don't you guys love Halloween? It's my favorite holiday of the year, spooky season, pumpkin carving and everything. We did pumpkin carving last year, I think, in the Pengs group, and man, some of the Pengs pumpkins that they did were amazing. I'm sure we had a draw as well. Oh, by the way, I'm doing a giveaway on my next 2 XRP videos. You guys, it's gonna be 250 XRP coins split into 2 giveaways only here on the channel on those 2 XRP videos. So you just merely need to comment your wallet and you'll be drawn into that. You don't need to like, you just need to comment your wallet on those videos. So keep an eye out for that. 125 XRP coins a go. We were gifted those by another validator called Firefly, which was very generous. I always do like when we've got the ability to do giveaways. So shout out to Firefly. We'll be doing that very soon. So keep an eye out for that one. Before I got sidetracked, I can't remember what I was talking about. So I'm just going to go ahead and, maybe a vampire is better, you guys. Oh, I'm gonna have to have a deeper think about this. Now, Tesla profits fall despite higher sales hitting the share price. This is an ongoing thing at the moment, and I think Elon's like having a back and forth with NASA at the moment. Elon gets affected, the overall market gets affected as well. But the fact that we're not seeing as much of a boom right now in the overall external market outside of crypto. And this is really, really vital, you guys, because guess what? Precious metals are dropping, right? If we go over now to trading view, we look at gold taking a huge dip, finally seeing some kind of cooling off. And this isn't an organized drop, as you can see previously here. And then again, stabilizing here, getting this lovely flag pattern, and then pushing up even higher. This does look like it's ready to come down and now cool off. And it's the same with silver and some other things that are going on. There definitely are talks of peace on a global scale, if you will, you guys. So from my perspective, I don't know about you and like your personal situation, your family, how you feel. I don't care about the political ins and outs. I just want it all to stop. I want to stop seeing all of this crazy stuff on the news. I want the world to be at peace with itself, so everybody can build and have this opportunity that we've all got here in crypto, right? You're part of that very small bracket. Those that were part of that very small bracket during the dot-com era ended up building things like Google, Amazon, Apple, Samsung, all of those different things started during times like that. It's that you really want to, and the level for entry of something like that back then was crazy. You needed a lot of money for a startup, whereas a crypto startup, some people have done it with like $500. Some people I know have not even putting any money into it, and they've just simply been donated the money, they've been sponsored, or they found good partners. Crypto is there for absolutely everyone. I keep seeing articles about arrests being made on scamming groups and those kind of deeper groups, if you will, that work in an organized effort, right, to go out and actively hunt people down to get their seed phrases, and they pray. Seeing people being brought from Africa to America this week. No one's above the law now when it comes to crypto. They will come and get you wherever you are, period. So we got like 5 minutes, and then there's going to be around a 5-minute pause. I'll get everything set up, and then we'll bring this mystery guest on you guys. But if you didn't know about this, Governor Waller is making big moves. I'm prepping a video on this because there has been an elaboration on this. There's a bit more news to go through. But if you don't know about these skinny master accounts, get to know. This is more important than any regulation, anything we've covered before. It's more important than Operation Chokepoint 2.0 ending. This is the bridge. Okay, for Solana, for Ethereum, for XRP, for BNB, this is the bridge that connects crypto to the regular financial institution. This is it, you guys. If these skinny master accounts are given out and people like Ripple XRP get access to it, if you think a $1 billion investment in XRP tokens is big, damn. You guys are going to want to see how much gets invested just into the broader crypto spectrum when people have the ability to move from A to B. Without this master account, you simply can't transact with the regular financial ecosystem. You have to go through a third party. You have to have an intermediary. Bring these skinny master wallets and boom, you are absolutely living. So yeah, there was a lot more to go through here today, you guys. We just don't have enough time. This Apex Summit, I'm gonna be doing a video on this, getting you guys as up to date as possible. This is really important. This is what we went over here, which was the article that dropped, I think it was on the 19th, saying about this, how this one summit could change crypto's trajectory. And if you don't think soybeans are going to have effect, that's fine. But I'm here to prove to you that those soybeans are going to have a huge effect on the overall market. And again, if we cover these things, and I never ever do it because I always feel like we're gloating. I never ever something happens, we spoke about it, and then it happens. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, we're right. But I think a lot of people, because I don't brush up on it, it's forgotten about. But mark my word, the Skinny Master account, this summit, and the soybean trade, amongst other things, this is the one, you guys. This is the one. So we're going to take a short 5-minute break. I'm going to get this person into the call, and we'll do a sound check, and then I will bring you guys back. I'll put you onto the landing page for the stream, but I am still here. I'll be right back. Oh my God, so many buttons to press. All right, guys, I am back live with you. Just in the comment section, let me know if you can hear the guest speaker and everything like that. But we've got Strafe Cole here. I think, this is a crucial member of the LUNC community at this point. I think the voice is underrated. I think his ability to get stuff done is heavily underrated as well. So I thought who better to have as the first person on these weekly Friday lives with a guest slot to the man, the myth, the legend, Strafe Cole himself. So how you been, Strafe? What's been going on? Give us an update. How are you?
Hey, has been a long time, right?
Was it 4 months? Well, you probably hadn't have been on the channel for a while before that either.
Yeah, true. So I don't know, maybe 8 months, 9 months.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I think and I was speaking about this in my previous live streams, like a lot of things I've been speaking about, is I think everybody's like quite bound to the environment that is X, right? But you've got what's called algorithm. So what you see and I see, right, isn't the same as what the general public is seeing, especially when it comes down to trending. So when something's generally trending, right, on X, for example, you're going to see the hashtag trending, but that's you and me. We see that because we have an interest vested in this thing, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean it's being showed externally. So what I definitely failed on previously, before I had to go away and have all my surgery work, was giving people in LUNC a voice on YouTube. Yeah, there's not enough out there on YouTube at the moment, especially when it just comes to our ecosystem and broader coverage of it. It all just ends at what is X.
Yeah, X is the main place currently. That's true. Yes.
Yeah. Pay to speak, my friend. Pay to speak. So, get us up to date, really, with what I'll always bastardize something like this, but you can give us a better update, really, of what that previous upgrade meant, the technical debt, really the ins and outs of this thing. Again, guys, I've been away for 4 months. It's been a while for me, so I feel like you can get a better explainer from the man himself.
Okay, I can try it. I put an X tweet out trying to make an analogy for the recent upgrade. So when TFL made the chain in the first place, the COSM WASM implementations were not that far as they are currently. So they made a very, very specific custom implementation of the whole WASM thing, the contract thing. And that meant this was not fully compatible with what all the Cosmos chains are using from the maintainers of the current COSM WASM. And so we carried the technical burden with us, even through the upgrades of all the past time that brought us up to date with the SDK and everything else. But the contract still used slightly different storage positions on the chain. Let's put it that way. And so we never could really use the upstream, the normal default WASM, because it just was not fully compatible. We always had to make changes, and those changes had to be done on each upgrade that affected the COSM WASM and that increases maintenance efforts and all that stuff. And so the previous upgrade was to remove that last big technical debt from TFL times by rearranging all the contract storage that was on chain or is on chain to match what the other Cosmos chains use when they use COSM WASM contracts. That was the purpose. And why it took so long can be quite simply explained. We have around 27 million storage points that had to be copied to a temporary location, rearranged and copied back to their new location. And much of that had to happen in memory. And so if a server did not have enough memory, it ran into trouble or had to use the disk, which is far slower than the memory itself. And that made it take so long. And you can imagine that if you have a big shelf with lots of stuff in it, in every compound there is tons, thousands, millions of stuff, and you have to take everything out, put it to a temporary, maybe on a table, make sure there's enough space, rearrange it in the shelf, and then put it back in there. And that's quite what happened on the last update. And that was an important step to just have less complications on future updates that affect contract storage. So yeah, that's about it. That is one thing, and a small fix that also went into the upgrade but is not really communicated, that months ago there was a proposal that IBC tokens should be exempt from tax because they don't belong to the chain like USDC. And that worked and continued to work when you sent tokens. But if you used swapping or contracts, then those IBC tokens were taxed. That was a mistake that I made when the rework of the tax into the gas fees was done. And so that was fixed also in this upgrade. So that means if you sell kind of LUNC on-chain on one of the DEXs, you now get 0.5% more because the IBC token now is exempt from tax as it was decided by governance months ago.
So wait, just before you progress any further on everything that you've said.
Yeah, sure.
The most bullish thing that you've really mentioned there so far is definitely the correction, right, of these IBC tokens, because the IBC tokens are essentially what bridges, a chain and another chain together inside the cosmos, right, guys? So if the taxes are right, you're more than likely to have a product move over, or a project, or an entity, now that things are more balanced out. Am I right in saying that, Strafe?
Yeah, you have to imagine it like this. If you bridge an asset from another chain to this chain, we create a kind of native IBC token version on our chain. We mint it. And on the other chain where it came from, it is locked in a vault. And on the opposite direction, it means we burn it on our side and it is unlocked on the original chain. So, and when you start taxing the tokens on our side, that means IBC tokens are partly burned due to the burn tax. And that means there remain some of the tokens indefinitely locked on the origin chain because they can never be redeemed. There's less supply on our chain than originally was locked on the origin. And that should be avoided. And also it makes no sense to tax IBC tokens because, they are part of the ecosystem while they are not really part of the ecosystem. They don't belong to the chain. And so that was decided months ago. There was a mistake and now it was corrected. And so swapping, for example, USDC to LUNC was never taxed because USDC was sent. That was okay. But swapping LUNC back to USDC, that was mistakenly taxed, and that was fixed. Now you get this 0.5% more of USDC whenever you swap on chain.
The need for something. The sigh of relief I get with stuff like this is pretty big because we've got, again, like, it's not just that technical data you got rid of going forward on that last upgrade, but like what existed previously, where we've come from at this stage. I think there's a few like little bits remaining here and there, right, with technical debt that does remain. It's not everything's gone. There's a few little bits, right?
Yeah, for example, some legacy message types that mean it affects a ledger and it affects Kepler, but that just means if we want to get rid of these last little bits, there has to be a whole lot of coordination with external stuff, and that is always difficult. And the impact on maintenance and such of those little parts is not really that big. So that means you can currently keep them without causing big issues on updates and stuff. But that was not the case with forked SDK, forked Comet BFT, forked WASM-D, all those stuff. That really had an impact on each major update. And so we're quite good on that front, in my opinion, now.
That's what I like to hear. When the coordination required for the next part is, again, that's an arduous task. It's a very, very whoever can do that, my hands goes down to them, because it's never easy. Someone said in the comments of this live that LUNC needs a leader, and it's like it's like the worst thing that we can do. It's like essentially you're going back to square one. Each time a leader tries, it fails. It self-detonates, it self-terminates, or the community invalidators terminate them for themselves. But if you could get a group of people right and like have as many voices as possible, you could get some kind of coordination going at this point, I believe. Like it's within the realms of reality. I think people focus too much on, I don't know, I've done it many times, but kind of looking too outwards instead of more inwards. As to like, I don't know, people like arguing on X at the moment about Greenpeace again, and it's like, oh, we did this ages ago. Like we already determined that it's not like it's a parody account, if anything. Yeah, interesting stuff. But what I want to do, Strafe, is go before we go on to the AstroPort subject, which for those who are listening and have been here from the beginning, you'll know how substantial AstroPort is and how important it is. Whilst I was gone during that 4 months, I think there was 2 versions, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 versions of a market module proposal, right? Like there was 2 different versions of reactivating the market module. And I think the difference is essentially one mints and one doesn't, yeah?
Yeah.
Like
the one that does not mint works exactly the same. It's just more secure and doesn't kind of fake burns and mints, because the mint version would have used what was burnt in the previous month, and with the no mint version, you just redirect it to a swap pool instead. So you have the same amounts, but you don't have those green and red candle alteration in the supply chart. So it's less confusing, in my opinion, and also technically a bit more secure, because if there's no minting, there's no risk of hyperminting.
yeah, but when you think about the market module, right? The market module exists essentially everywhere, right? But the market module here for our chain is very specific on what it did before. And the necessity to have a minting system inside that market module that worked on a similar thesis, right, is essential to reactivate in the market module, because otherwise you're just essentially creating another AstroPort or another swapping service. Like, it doesn't make any sense in my world, from my understanding, to even follow. Like, even like if you're going to do it, you do it with the minting. Like, it's just pointless otherwise, right? Oh, one sec, guys. Dropped out there. Let me bring him back. I must have scared him with my market module talk. Yeah, damn. Let me bring him back. I was like, oh no, I've upset him. I was like, he's gone. Come back, please.
Dump me wanted to unmute and clicked end call.
Oh,
Okay.
That's hilarious.
No, so I get where you come from. I get where you come from with the minting. But essentially, in this case, the market module is not used for what it was used previously. And even if you would have used the minting, it wouldn't have been the same as before. Currently, what is being done with the market module and was voted in by governance is the non-minting version. And it is just like, let's say, an intermediate step. Testing what can be done, testing if it can get adoption on chain. Because for the use case currently, just to utilize parts of the burn tax for swapping liquidity, it doesn't really have a benefit to have the mint version, just because there is so tight limits in it that it's nowhere near the algorithm that was used previously, just for safety reasons and for reasons to not risk any supply problems coming from this market module. But if this proves workable, it can be extended. And we know that there are several ideas floating around. I mean, the last one that was rejected was the USTD proposal from Redline. And currently, Nicolas Boulay is working on something that wants to first focus on repegging the low cap stables like EUTC and GBP, to re-enable the market module in a fully collateralized way. And I think the problem is what you mean with the minting version like it worked before. We just cannot do it because it was algorithmic and did not have any collateral underlying mechanics. Everything that was there was algorithmic, and collateral was only off-chain to be used when you needed to create buy pressure on USTC or UST at that time. But the market module itself was, it had no collateral, it had no safeguards in that regard. So we have simply no options to return to exactly the same mechanics. And so we need something that has automated collateral management, if you want to utilize that. But that also means, of course, you're not really going back to exactly the same mechanics that the market module had before, with the minting, burning, and the same non-collateral in that sense. At least there is not a single plan that I'm aware of out in the wild that would attempt something like that currently.
So if you were to split the difference and put a DEX on one side and this new market module approach that has passed, what would you say are the main differences between the two?
The main difference is that the spread and the price impact does not depend on liquidity, because the liquidity used for the virtual AMM is still virtual. So it is not based on the pool size like DEXs are. So that is still kind of algorithmic, because it uses recovery periods of the virtual liquidity. And so it is kind of circumventing the problem that DEXs have with low liquidity pools, as the pool size simply is virtually defined by governance. I mean, that was one of the problems with the original algorithmic version, that those parameters were really badly chosen during the crash and the time before. They were leveraged in a way that allowed so much more minting. And so that is a very major difference to normal DEXs, as they fully rely on pool sizes for spread and price impact of trades depending on the size. Now, other difference, of course, is the current planned limitations. So the amounts available overall for swapping, because they shall depend on the volume of the previous month. So there is no risk of a shortage of fund that would have to be minted or taken from CP or something like that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept. Again, not much I've looked at when it does come down to this final version that has passed, for those that are listening. So again, Strafe, always treat myself and the viewership like we know absolutely nothing. I always find that's the best way to go. When it comes down to the reactivation of this, let's say in the perfect environment and the perfect future, it works. It activates. It's successful. It does what it does. Firstly, what would you say are the chances of this system failing in some way, shape, or capacity? What are these inherent risks that we could see?
Okay. Yeah, the major risk, which also was mentioned in the original proposal, is that people use it for an exit strategy of USTC. That means that if you let's say you burn 50% and 50% LUNC and 50% USDC in a month currently. Just numbers are not important. Just say you burn 50% of the one and 50% of the second through the burn text currently. And when parts of that get redirected to the swap pool, it can be that people never swap to USTC, but all only sell their USTC to swap to LUNC. And that would just lead to a situation where tons of USTC were burned instead, but not LUNC. So it would shift, it would be the same dollar amount, but it would shift from one token through to the other, just because we allow, before we burn the remainders, we allow 1 month of using those as swaps. So we only burn what remains after the end of the next month. And if everyone swaps their USTC to LUNC, then the pool has given away all the LUNC, but has more USTC in turn, and that is then burned. But yeah, that's kind of the worst I can imagine, that you have a shift of burn amounts, the same dollar amount, but different on-chain currencies that are burnt.
So you know, and I myself know this, we know that a substantial amount of active USTC that could be used in this instance you've just explained, it does primarily exist on chain. The likelihood of having whales with a lot of USTC is quite high, and it's the same with a lot of these validators. You know, the gears are greased with USTC, and it's what did we say the percentage was, Strafe? I think it was like, was it 34.5% is made up of USTC and rewards that you get? What was the percentage?
Yeah, it should be around 35 to 40% USTC currently.
Yeah, because at face value, this was kind of the only thing that I could really see without like deep diving into all of the information that they've put out here, which is really good, especially for people that need that information. The only thing I really see is that. And then the other thing which they've actually put in there, which I think is quite important, a risk here, saying community disappointment. to unmet expectations. Now, I think this is very important because you can build anything you want in crypto. I mean, you could build something that pumps out chocolate hammer NFTs that are absolutely useless. It doesn't mean there's going to be people there to use and utilize it. This unmet expectations, from my perspective, is not just going to come down to pushing a proposal and it being successful. And people being like, oh yeah, wow, you know, this is actually something we can use. People are bullish over it. It's got to go further. It's got to go much further than just the proposal and the successful execution of it all. In my perspective, if this is successful and it does do what it does, you're going to want to be able to market this in as many places as possible. What do you think it's going to come down to with the community disappointment on this? It's not really something that's it looks technical at face value, and I want to point this out. It looks technical at face value. Yes, it is technical to develop and execute and get done and dusted, but the use and utilization, the viewer, the user side, the UI UX, it's just going to be essentially a swap. That's it. It's not complex, so there's not a lot there on the user endpoint.
Right. No, what I meant with this wrong expectations or unmet expectations is simply that even when it was first explained in detail, there were still people saying, oh, could this repack USTC? Or, oh, yes, we could have a high impact on price. But that is nothing that is expected. It is just something to start looking into the market module again, to try reactivating parts of it, to see how it works out, if it is adopted at all, if it can work on chain, if it can be integrated again into the different UIs, in the aggregators, in the DApps like LUNC Dash and similar. And people tend to hype something and then be disappointed when their expectations are not really met by the outcome. And so that is a risk, because you have seen that with tons of the USTC proposals. They create a short hype pump and then a dump again, and then it's rejected and it might dump further and all that stuff. And so I would have liked to try to manage those expectations, to not have people getting too hyped about that. Just, it is kind of a technical experiment and a short step on trying to utilize the market module in the future again.
Talk to me about the kill switch. I think this is an important part of any attempt to do this. The kill switch is, tell me, is it instant? Is it, is it a 7-day window? How does this thing get shut off?
First of all, as it has no minting, you in theory don't have to shut it off if you just don't like it. But as with everything, the most serious thing happens and you need to stop something immediately. What chains do is do a coordinated chain halt. That means they just inform all the validators, stop your nodes immediately. We have a security issue. Validator stop and apply an upgrade. That was done during the crash, for example. No on-chain proposal, just validator coordination, emergency shutdown, and applying hotfix upgrade, then starting again. So that is kind of a kill switch for everything on the chain that is really, really severely security related. And I would never expect that with such a limited use case of the market module or similar, just because there is no minting and sorry, there's no minting involved. if there was minting and you would have overlooked some security barriers and would risk hyperinflation. And of course, then that would be a possibility that you would need at some point to shut.
I would be very surprised if there was any possibility of any kind of minting in any form to happen with something like this. I don't think that's the concern. The concern definitely would just be if there was someone out there, right, who has the ability to do what you said, right, and essentially weaponize this thing with the amount of USTC that they may or may not have. I think that's the only reason you would need to pull the plug, would it not be?
But even then, if you realize someone is doing that, it has daily swap caps at least in the near future, mid future, to monitor the swap behaviors and all that thing. And the highest risk that could happen is that someone dumps all his USTC, gets LUNC from the swap pool is empty, and at the end of the period, the USTC is burnt and not the LUNC. That's the highest risk of that. So even in that case, you have time to say, okay, no, we don't want that in the future. We make a proposal, roll it back, disable it, whatever. If that takes 7 days, that's not really an issue money-wise. There's no security problem, even if some whale would do that.
Okay, well, someone actually asked a really good question in the comments earlier, and I've been doing a bit of research on this. Let me shout the guy out. Hang on a sec. I want to make sure I credit this person for the question. Where is it? I need like sound effects for this. Where is it? Okay, one of you asked this question. I can't see where it is. But it's essentially they asked, right? Do Kwon and many other people at the time couldn't fix the issue, the minting, and then they couldn't. Well, we don't know if they could or they couldn't. They couldn't fix the original infrastructure of the chain, so they went to V2. At the time, and this is based on reports of data that I've got in front of me, Terraform Labs had around 40 to 56 employees before the collapse, right? And the person essentially has asked, why do you think you can do this? Why do you think you and Vegas will be the people to do this when this 40 to 56 people simply couldn't get it done?
Okay, no, it's kind of a valid question. Yeah, of course. Okay, so short answer, we don't. Because we don't fix what was broken. We don't use the same approach. We don't try to reverse the hyperminting with it. We don't try to use the same mechanics. It's just not what we would do. Second, in my opinion, back then, they probably had to make a quick decision. And at the time when the crash happened, the technical prerequisites had already changed quite a bit. And I think for them, it was easier to spin up a new chain. Technically, it was much easier. It had the effect of having fresh controlled supply. They had kind of control over how they distribute the supply, even if they had to come up with the airdrop 1-4x plan and whatever they all did, and exclude wallets and so on and so on. But fixing the chain that collapsed, that would have taken a lot more effort also in trying to restore the trust and restore what was destroyed during the crash. And the market module had no liquidity left. The collateral was off-chain. They used it, mainly didn't use all, but they used it to try to stabilize the price, and it didn't work out, and they kind of destroyed all their collateral that was left. So instead of having 60% covered of the USDC value, suddenly they maybe had 1% covered, or I don't know, maybe 2%. And so if they would just have said, okay, we just turn it back on and see how it goes, they would have risked to probably face a lot more legal complications because they didn't do everything possible to stop it at that point. And they already have legal troubles, as we all know, for a different reason, mainly because it was advertised in a certain way. So I think they chose the easy route at that point in time. And it could have only be fixed with a lot of money, which they probably also didn't have. And we also don't have. And so the market module in its original form, in its original mechanics, is simply, from my perspective, unfixable, because it needs off-chain collateral to stabilize. Because just algorithmic between USDC and LUNC cannot work. It would need a snowball system. You would always need more inflow of money. And once that dries down, you go down and down and everything collapses. And that is the reason that once you want to do something in a decentralized way, we will need something that is fully collateralized in a way that we can control on-chain. That means that we don't have to have people manually trying to hold the peg by selling BTC or whatever off-chain. And that is the reason why it's not really comparable. We don't fix the system. We don't fix what was broken and the reason for the crash. We utilize the techniques that are underlying, but we use it differently. We just make use of the, technically speaking, the messages that you can send to the chain and use it to make people able to swap directly on the layer 1 with similar mechanics to DEXs, but with fees for the chain and with funds from the chain without having to involve contracts at that point. And as I said, that is kind of an experiment with very low risk, technically low risk because it involves no minting. It burns the same dollar value, just maybe different tokens. And so that is the first step of seeing what we can do. If we can extend on that in the future, what we can do with it in the future. And yeah, that's it. So it's not that we try to fix something that 50 people couldn't fix before.
I think you raised some really good points there. I hope everybody's absorbing what we're talking about here, because what I'm trying to do is kind of like narrow down all of the problems that could arise with this. And it's simply just been well thought out. This thing caters to the need that is there from the ecosystem for something like this. It's definitely catering to it. Now, what do you believe during the because there's a testnet phase of this, I have no doubt. What data do you think you're going to be able to gather from that? Just as a last question on this market module before we move on.
During the testing, we want to simulate. That means simulate Oracle outage, simulate Oracle disbalance, so validators reporting different prices for USDC or LUNC, for example, and validating that the amount that can be swapped is limited and that not can be swapped if suddenly the Oracle is delayed for 3 minutes and no prices are coming in. Because those are all factors that could lead to issues in the market module. I can give you an example. So let's say LUNC would be 1 cent and USDC would be 10 cents. And then the Oracle, for some reason, like validator servers being attacked or whatever, is stopping to report new prices for 5 minutes. But on DEX, on CE axis and DE axis, the price suddenly changes. So it's no longer 10 to 1, it's 5 to 2, for example. But the chain still thinks it's 1 to 10, and you get the same swap ratio. And that would offer huge arbitrage opportunities that are not justified. We want arbitrage opportunities, but we want real prices and not something that is that is faked. And so we need safeguards saying that the chain does not allow any swapping if there was no price updates for 1 minute. And such things need to be tested and see if they work, and see if you easily can utilize the swapping again in some UIs like LUNC Dash and similar wallets, or even in aggregators. And if that all works, and the scenarios that we can come up with for attacking this system are all tested out, and we don't have further ideas, and that is where the community has to come in and think of ideas how they would attack such a system. And if all that has been tested and safeguards implemented that we maybe now haven't thought of yet, then we have enough data to say, yeah, we're confident to put this on mainnet. But said again, there is no risk of hyperminting. So the risk, even if we overlook something that could be a small attack vector for the price oracle or for the daily swap limit or something like that, it's not a risk that we suddenly end up with double LUNC supply or something like that.
This is good. The testnet phase, if there are any issues, you're definitely going to be able to simulate, you'll be able to find them, and you'll be able to patch any of those possible leaks or issues, whatever you want to visualize them as. This is good news, to be quite honest, because again, we are back and forth with the idea of the market module for a long time, even when between the first surgery and the second surgery, there were points where you and I were talking and you were going over the minting version, and I was saying about how, a pool is a good way to really contain stuff. So again, the fact that you've figured out a way to really just go, well, actually, we don't need this original method, or we don't need to go down this route, we can walk this route, is good news all round. So I'm going to go on to something else. I'm going to lay down some stuff, and we'll talk about it. But what? Yes or no? I don't want you to go into depth or anything. Does Binance have a mega plan or not?
No.
Same here. I think we're way past any kind of plan that would have been formulated by them, and I think they've just kind of got us on the hook at this point.
No, but I really want to say a small thing about that.
Oh, go on, man. Go on.
I think although they are a business, they kind of feel sorry for LUNC holders that were so badly hit during the crash. And I guess that's also a tiny part of why they do what they do. But I don't think there's any master plan.
Good answer. I like it. Okay, so Strafe, for you as well, listening to what I'm going to mention, and then we'll start talking about this yield-bearing stablecoin proposal that was put forward and rejected, that redline drifter. We'll look at your opinions, my opinions, the ins and outs, and we'll discuss it. I think this is really important, considering that you might have this successful execution of the market module returning in this no mint 2.0 kind of thing. So the Genius Act, really big thing in crypto. We covered it very heavily on the channel. Now, the Genius Act itself does not allow stablecoin issuers, okay, to offer yield-bearing products, okay? And the Act now prohibits issuers from paying interest or yield directly to holders, explicitly banning yield-bearing stablecoins from being issued by these, okay, this is an important part, regulated entities. However, third-party platforms like crypto exchanges are not prohibited by the Act from offering yield or reward on stable coins they hold. And it's a distinction that has created a significant regulatory loophole. So what does this mean for us, you guys, those of us that are here, we're in DeFi, and yeah, we have this stable coin product? Well, although it's killed yield-bearing stable coins, DeFi is prime territory for this kind of thing. Now, with that being said, Strafe, what do you think is good about Redline's proposal? What do you think is bad about it?
Okay, so first of all, a bit of context. They drafted it in a way that they said it would not fall under any of those regulational stuff because there was no issuing entity, as it was fully decentralized without any owner. So there would not be any regulated entity at all. But they also said that this will likely prevent the most CXs from listing it because it does not meet regulations. It was meant to be outside of regulation because it was focused just on decentralized environments. So that is an important part of the proposal itself, but also about why it was opposed strongly by many, because it was a niche idea, something that was not meant to be mass adopted through CXs, at least initially. In my personal opinion, the basic idea was interesting because most of the users won't have any idea how to generate yield by staking their stable coins in some kind of liquidity pools on specific chains and all that stuff. And their idea would have given them the opportunity to earn yield without even staking. They wanted to distribute it to just holders. Even if you did not do anything with your tokens, just have them in your wallet on chain, you would have got yield because they would have staked the collateral in high yield liquidity pools. So the negatives, in my opinion, are that it would have fully relied on centralized roots, kind of. USDC and USDT both have blacklisting opportunities. So if Noble, the issuer of USDC, or Tether need to, for some reason, blacklist a wallet, they can do. So that means if regulatory instances, governance, or whatever would decide, oh, this is a bad product, they could have locked all the collateral. And so that was a risk. It might have been low, but that was a risk. Second negative was the relying on third-party routes. That means IBC routes through Noble, but then also the central routes for USDT to Ethereum, which also are not fully decentralized, so can be limited, can be shut down. And the risk of that is simply that people at all times need to be able to redeem their coins on chain if they want to get out the stable coin. And that was not guaranteed. So there was, even if it was a small risk, there was a risk that people were simply stuck with a stablecoin, which could have hindered adoption or trust building. Yeah, and the good parts, and I liked that idea overall, was, like I said, the yield distribution method, the idea of using foreign chain liquidity pools to gain the yield, to make use of it, optimize the positions, things that other people that are not that into finance and crypto cannot simply do. And another positive thing was just how it overall was structured, trying to make it really as decentralized as possible, using Akash, decentralized blockchain, as provider for the server backends that were needed, and all that stuff. So I liked the structure, but in my opinion, it could have been built on level 2. So as kind of a CW20 token on chain, but that was something they don't wanted. So they wanted it to be owned by the chain taking the liability, the chain paying for the development. And I'm that might sound a bit ridiculous, but I'm quite risk averse. And that sounds silly being an LUNC and crypto overall, but I'm risk averse. So that means risking the chain and all its building DApps and protocols and everything that is building on chain, and attach it to the reputation of a chain owned, kind of risky, stable idea because of the attached regulation stuff. Yeah, what was too much for me. So I would have said, build it on L2, even if the chain doesn't get direct yield from it, doesn't earn directly from it. It would still, if it has been, it would have been highly adopted. It would have generated chain fees through tax, coin movements, gas fees, and so on, and brought user inflow. So the chain would still have benefited. So I would have supported it and might have even invested it if they had built it on the DApp level on this chain. But on core level, making it a native coin with that concept and what it would have meant for the chain, I didn't think I could support it.
Yeah, so for me, the pros on this was definitely the actual concept itself of this decentralized and fully automated yield bearing stable coin, on-chain, chain owned. I like this concept. This concept's really good, especially because the laws are changing. There is an opportunity out there for this. Now, when it comes down to the cons, the real negatives of this, it's over reliant on third parties, which you kind of brushed up on, while at the same time kind of wants everything from the chain. It wants the chain to take the hit. It wants, if everything goes wrong, oh, well, it's the chain's fault. I think it's a beautiful idea, but there's too many pitfalls in this current plan. My advice to Redline and this Rednix guy is don't give up. Don't see this as like a cliff that you just run off with your idea. You've got something. Okay, there's an opportunity here. And if we are going to get this market module back up and running, this 2.0 version, some kind of yield bearing stable coin is required. Now, you brushed on the situation with them really pushing on the not really going for CEXs, right, for this new USTC product, and kind of fuck the CEXs. Yeah, for me, the original USTC system is it did so well because it targeted just the Cosmos. They didn't really get onto CEXs until near the end. That was like an end game for them. This is when he was like, I'm untouchable. Little did he know. But the original idea and concept of USTC to begin with did so well because everybody in the cosmos used it. And then when everybody started using it and it had that crazy APY return, people like Connor Kenny caught word of mouth. And then it just became a store of value at that point for a lot of people. People would buy and sell with it. Again, it becomes something that you hold, but you also use. And retail started to come in. So although this idea will not work in these circumstances from your perspective and my perspective, they do have something here. And we might disagree on this, but I do believe that any product that comes as does a new coin or reusing the original asset, whatever, however this pans out, right, it should be primarily focused on the cosmos and what we know. And then most importantly, it needs to be very simple. It can be complex behind the scenes. It can be the craziest crossword you've ever seen, right? But as long as people can get the answers and fill out those boxes, then you're going to bring a product to play that people can use. The use and utilization with something like this isn't just going to be the yield bearing concept part of it or it being decentralized or whatever. It's going to be the usability and the scalability of something like this. How far can you take it, right? Yeah. I just think there's something there when it comes down to this, especially with the Genius Act. And if you're not up to date with the Genius Act, Strafe, I would really look into it. And then you start to understand that, hang on a minute, DeFi is a place that now has a purpose when it comes down to something like this. And what I think about, right, and I know, and people will probably be shocked about the differences you and I have. I went through trial exhibit P301, we burnt Anchor, we burnt Mirror, TFL burnt Shuttle, the SEC and DK initiated the burn of USTC and LFG. There's really not a lot of risk out there when it does come down to what is being proposed for the market module and there be an excess amount of tokens out there that could be weaponized. We've really minimized that hazard, if you will, by going through and destroying what are deemed as these dead assets. That Chris Armani said it best. We simply do not know who would or could have access to these assets now, in the past, or in the future. When I think about a yield-bearing stablecoin, right, what is quite obvious is a yield-bearing stablecoin, isn't it? So it needs to have yield to bear. Yeah. When people are going to be shocked when we look at trial exhibit P301 now, all that remains is Project Dawn. Project Dawn needs to either be burned, which again you and I disagree on heavily, or it could be used and utilized for these yield bearing stable coins. What's really your kind of view? I know how you feel about burning them, but how do you feel about reappropriating or repatriating these funds that do remain to give a USTC repeg or, this new stable coin, some yield to bear? And it's a significant amount. It's 358 million USTC that's sat there. So it's like 5.8% of the total supply, not the total supply. What do you think?
I always said leave it alone, and reutilizing it is, in my opinion, even worse than burning it, just because for every single token you bring back into circulation, you create sell pressure. For every single token that you bring back. And in theory, I know it cannot be done just because it would cause a massive validator, like dying with validators. But in theory, for the price itself, it would be better to not pay out Oracle rewards, just because they are mostly sold by validators to cover cost, and not even that. Because it's not enough. And it has been that way since years now. So that means every single coin paid out from Oracle Pool, from repurposing any protocol funds to give any kind of rewards, is always creating some kind of sell pressure, because people tend to sell their rewards. So that is the issue.
Very interesting. I've always said any repeg attempts would always be floundered by obviously the Oracle rewards that are distributed. You raise a good point. They are sold by most validators. And I guess this is kind of why you're a little bit more relaxed with this market module that you're pushing forward.
Yes, it is not creating anything that would not be any in circulation anyway. The only thing that it does is it might shift sell pressure a bit from USDC to LUNC or vice versa. So it won't give out both. It would just allow a redistribution between those two. So there is no additional sell pressure of the on the ecosystem. It's just shifting depending on how the swapping is used. And that, I think, is probably less intrusive than trying to return coins that are not accessible right now into circulation by offering them as rewards or yield of any form or shape.
Good points. Good points. Yeah, I kind of always say, if you've got, from my perspective anyway, if there's options available, I always feel it's necessary for myself to always weigh out each and every option, regardless of my personal viewpoint, because I just believe that these final 9 wallets that I had up on screen have one determined route, and this wasn't determined by you, anyone. It was determined by the courts in Delaware. It was judged and decreed. That's why we saw the USTC burn. That's why we in LFG. That's why we saw the USTC and LUNC burn in the shuttle bridge as well. So putting Project Dawn aside, I would definitely vote to burn them. You would probably vote against it. What do you think, right, about the remaining wallets on trial exhibit P301? They are only CEX wallets. You know this, I know this. The only one on there we're really interested in is the Binance Deposit wallet. This obviously means that at some point TFL was putting coins on Binance. Do you believe that there is a large portion remaining on Binance? Obviously, we don't have the memo, but what do you think? Do you think it's going to be a minor amount in there? Do you reckon this is the reason why Binance have that flat point, the point they haven't dropped below yet since they've been the largest holder?
So it's a good question, because we cannot follow off-chain movements and link them to any on-chain wallets. It's simply impossible. As soon as they reach the CEX, only the CEX can really see who does what. So it could well be that they used parts of the funds that were on-chain, be it wrapped or be it any supported token, and send it to Binance to try to stabilize or whatever. But of course, it could as well be that they send tokens to Binance to hold them there and do something with them later. So you don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's a massive amount, like 2 digits % of supply. I don't think it's that much, but I could imagine there's still a bit left that is or was owned by TFL. Just you probably won't be able to access, nor even be able to see how much it is and how it was used or how it is used.
Now, I have a method I'm working on. I'm doing a few different things at the moment. I believe you can figure this out. Now, again, from the CEX side, it's problematic beyond all measure. I mean, this is an intricate system that again has been designed by a CX. It's normally uniquely developed. The only way to really know right now is again to have that memo. And the only one who would know that is the CEX. Might change in the future. Now, the only other way to actually track it is to do the very tedious task of going back to before the crash and then after the crash. And I mean the very early stage of the crash around DK voting for the fork. If you can find where they did send to the bot, because it doesn't matter if they put a memo in or whatever, right? We can still see the transaction. So if there was large portions sent, you could figure this out. Like it's not impossible. It's just very, very tedious, and it's going to take a long, long time to do. But
yeah,
again,
but still, you wouldn't track what happened afterwards. That's what I mean.
Yes, exactly. But because TFL would have sent whatever they sent to the deposit wallet, we will be able to see the amount that's sent. Whether you could track them all, you could add them up, put them in a spreadsheet, and get the total amount. Again, we simply on the other side of this, we don't know. But there is a way, that there is a method of doing this. Something that, and I need to be very careful what I say next. I haven't spoken to you about this, but I wanted to next week at some point. I am speaking to a guy who works at a local university where I live now. And I go there for boring World War II historical stuff, to lectures and things like that. And I was listening to a guy give a very specific lecture on a very specific technology. And I found it very interesting. So I spoke to this guy, and what had come into my head was what we're talking about now. And I gotta be so careful. At some point, right, on this side of what is accessible, that memo would have been entered. So therefore, the memo for these wallets that we seek must exist somewhere on our side of the accessible information, which I found quite interesting. Now, we all know we put the memos in on the app to send a transaction to CX, right? So why is that information not accessible, Strafe?
It is.
Okay, so if it is accessible, surely therefore we could cross-correlate and we could figure out what memo goes to the wallet that belongs to TFL. Now, again, we wouldn't be able to then take the answer and go, okay, now let's double check that on Binance. But let's say we got that memo, okay, and then we produce trial exhibit P301 in the court document version and make a plea to Binance to say how much is in this wallet. And if there is anything in this wallet, this is what they've said that we have to do. Like, there is a world, and there is a way, and there is a method for this to be done, as regardless of your personal stance, which I know.
I agree. If you take all the TFL wallets from the exhibit, exclude the CEX wallet, and then check every single one of those wallets when it ever sent something to the Binance Deposit wallet, and then check those transactions for the memos used. Of course, you could check if they are all the same, if they do use different, and if you're certain then that those are the memos belonging to TFL, then you could, you could do what you said.
I'm not just an ugly face, folks. I just want to point that out. And I am doxxed. Strafe knows what I look like, funnily enough. But these are the things that interest me in conversations like this. And people are probably thinking, they're just talking about this because we're on a live stream. No, we actually have very, very lengthy calls like this, just talking about everything and anything, being on one subject 1 minute and then being on something at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, either agreeing or disagreeing. But always able to just have a conversation, you and I, Strafe. It is interesting though, like that. I don't want to say much more about it because I'm working on something and I want it to kind of not be a surprise, but I want to be able to actually get this done for real. The other CEXs don't matter. they really don't matter at this point. You can find the total value of what is in that wallet, each one of them. Whether they've shifted it to another wallet, I don't know, but it was always a very tiny amount. Right, Strafe, last subject, a very, very important one. So I've got AstroPort up on my screen, Strafe. What's the plan? I mean, this is this is something that is complete. It's like it's like technical debt. It's like technical debt that we inherited from the original ecosystem, but it's been fixable for a while, but no one's really kind of got there. But yeah, go on. I won't. Go on.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going a bit to the past. When the upgrade, I think it was to SDK 46 in 2022 happened, the legacy contracts broke in a very specific way. That means they are still working, but they cannot make use of one specific thing, and that is querying the on-chain oracle and text data. They cannot do that anymore because the format has changed. And until recently, most people, including me, thought, okay, the only thing we can do is to upgrade the AstroPort contracts to make them work again, because they need to be modernized. And some weeks ago, I stumbled upon a message of someone posting an issue he had, that he used an AstroPort pair through an aggregator and swapped successfully. That means he swapped his, I think it was LUNC, to some old CW20 token, and it worked. And then he wanted to get back out, and it didn't work. He couldn't swap back. It always failed, and he posted the error message. And at that point, I thought, oh, that's a problem. If you can use the AstroPort contracts in one way for certain pairs, but you cannot get your funds back because you can only swap in one direction if you buy CW20 tokens, then I want to check why that is and if we can do something about it. And the error message that he posted in a group, that led me to the reason why those things fail. And I thought about and figured out a method to allow the chain to transform those old requests the contract do to the new ones. That means the chain just transforms them. They take them from the contracts and transform them to the new format that is now required to be used. And that leads to the fact that the contracts don't have to be changed because they just can work like they did before. And I tested that on a node of mine, so not the validator, but an endpoint node, and was able to initiate a swap to LUNC. Of course, no one else can do that, and I cannot do it really either, because the rest of the network won't accept it, and the node will app hash. That means it will disagree with the rest of the network and then just stop working. And I need to restore it from a snapshot. But that proved that you can fix this AstroPort situation most likely with a very small on-chain fix without any need to touch the contracts themselves. And then when I had tested that, I made a proposal to allow this code to be merged and hinted to the risks that this includes, including the sell pressure, the highly imbalanced pools compared to the other dexes and all that stuff. But from my point of view, it was some kind of obligation that we as a chain have to take that risk to allow everyone that has funds in AstroPort and that cannot be used to utilize it again, and everyone else to just utilize the liquidity for swapping.
How exciting. The simplicity of this is great. You know, the minimal amount of work such required to get this done is pretty good. Now we know that there's going to be juicy arbitrage options available to begin with, right? How are you going to mitigate that? How is there any way that you can kind of figure out a way so it's as fair as possible, right?
Actually, to be honest, no. The thing is this: the patch will go live as soon as the chain produces blocks after the upgrade it was included in. So there is no delay or anything. As soon as the upgrade is launched, is done on the majority of validators, and the first block is produced, in that moment, the changes are live and the contract should be usable again. So that means there will be probably a lot of bots that try to make use of that arbitrage. And for that reason, like you have up on your screen, I tried to patch the original AstroPort interface to work with our current ecosystem and allow connecting all the different wallets, and instead of only Station, to allow as many people as possible to try to use the interface to also get on the very first blocks after the upgrade. Because in fact, you will see if the transaction works as soon as you simulate an amount, because if the swap button doesn't come active, it is still not working. If it comes active and you can confirm the transaction, then you can make a swap again. And that will be the situation after the upgrade comes live. That includes the patch. But of course, everyone has to be careful. Like, let's say 500 people try to do that at the same time, then many will fail or not even be able to swap because their slippage setting would be exceeded and the transaction is not executed. And it will be kind of a race of first come, first serves, and who is the most lucky will be able to swap at good rates. But yeah, I suspect it will give some kind of peak in volume, because everyone wants to try to balance out all those pools with the ones we have and with off-chain situations. I mean, we have 1 billion LUNC in those pools and 27 million USDC. So it's considerable.
I mean, considerable is an understatement. There's going to be a huge candle one way or the other when this reactivation happens, just because coins are going to be allowed to move. And if you're wondering, when we sent this recently, for those who are listening, when the chain halted for 6 hours, when everything turned back on and everything started moving, it stimulated the price a very decent amount, and it just come back down straight away. We're holding a little bit higher though when we were originally at, so I guess as an end result, although it went up and down, we gained a bit of ground. Now the volume part on chain is really important, because I mean, we're nothing without on-chain volume. It's essentially what drives most of the movement that you do see currently with price, because although there is a good amount out there on CEXs and stuff, that's normally the endpoint for a lot of users. You know, you're either buying or selling it there. Not a lot of people, if you know you can stake it, are keeping it there. You're likely bringing it over and have it staked already. We know that because all of the tough times we've been through, and there's kind of that lower end line we never drop below with delegations. So yeah, I think this is really good. I think this is going to be really beneficial for you know, the entire chain, having this switched on, having those people able to access, because there are people, aren't there, that just got cut off, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, someone that sees a pair like the old Astro Classic coin and swaps their USDC to the Astro and then recognizes, oh, that coin is old, I want to get back. Yeah, locked in. No chance of swapping back.
Yeah, not good. Yeah, we always want people to be able to go back and forth for sure. So you mentioned earlier, just quickly as we're wrapping this live stream up, you mentioned earlier that I think it was Nicholas Boulet wants to target they're called stable quants. I don't know if you know this, but that is the name that were given to them when they were created. Stable quants, they're called. It's strange that someone would like to focus on those because those are part of the original ecosystem, each one built to serve. I don't know if you're from the UK and then you flew to Japan, you could convert and it was an idea they were building on. It's kind of weird that someone wants to like revive that. I don't think that's worthwhile. They're just, it's pointless, but I don't know, maybe you can lecture me a little bit on why it wouldn't be.
No, I think it's difficult to get adoption for that. The idea of that is transforming the market module for those stable quants to a collateralized market module. That means 100% collateralized stable quants, starting with the low cap ones. So you have a kind of mint and burn method, but not in the two-way situation. Like you have to put in other collateral and then you mint those stable coins, and when you burn them again to get the collateral back, but there won't be a two-way mint, so the collateral side won't ever be minted, and each of the stable coins should have its separate collateral pool, so one issue wouldn't affect the others and all that stuff. And the basic idea behind it is to have it become a forex trading system on chain, on core level. Yeah, I don't know if that would get adoption.
Yeah, I'm not. It's a side quest of weirdness. I just don't understand why you would. I don't know, because again, like the one-to-one thing, like you had one for Japan, you have one for essentially like all of the major countries. Yeah, absolutely crazy. I appreciate you coming on this week, Strafe. Hopefully, I have you on again, maybe next month or something. We'll do this at least once a month for you and get you on because you know you've got a lot of valuable information out there, technical or not.
Technical.
Yeah, mostly technical. Yeah,
nothing else. I'm only useful for technical.
Technical. It's not easy for someone like you. I totally get it. I totally get it. Well, look, I appreciate everybody turning up today. This has been a great live stream. I hope everybody enjoys, the weekend. Strafe, I hope you enjoy yours. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Drop a like on the way out, guys, if you can. And aside that, as I always say, stay safe, stay humble, and I'm going to catch you in the next one.